Well, hello. So this message goes out to Akiba Goldsman. Part two, right? This is part two. There will be a part three on how to bridge the whole Transformers world and create multi movies that branch off from the Transformers universe. So first and foremost, what we need these in the Transformers movies. We need to have strong characters, and what's really great about the cartoons is that there were specific characters that we just gravitated to because they had personality and they showed us their personality. In this particular video, I'm gonna talk about the Autobots. Maybe I will talk about the Decepticons as well. And we'll make it a long video as well. So Optimus Prime, of course, everybody loves Optimus Prime. Everybody relates to the leader, the one who goes out there and he embodies all the particular elements of Optimus. Now, Optimus is kind of a jerk though. There's some parts if you go back in the cartoon where there's some jerky Optimus moments. And so ultimately he is kind of like our Tony Stark. He's kind of like a minus the intelligence. So there's something but of course adding and building more character traits to Optimus Prime. Jazz. Jazz was one of the most beloved characters because we knew that he was voiced by a black man. It was kind of like I don't know if it was a racist character or not, but it was basically Jazz was a character that played loud music, rock and roll, and jazz came from the black community. So jazz is your equivalent to the racial character. I think that Jazz, of course, passed away. I believe in the second or the first movie. But the thing is that what's really great, another really powerful element of Transformers is reincarnation, where they can take that particular spark and just re-inject it into a whole new body and bring back the person. And when can they do that and how they can do that? Definitely tapping that into that element because it also leaves the fans like, oh, are they really dead? Are they coming back? How are they coming back? What's happening with them? So just ask that particular, bringing Jazz back, of course, bringing Jazz back, and Bumblebee. Everybody loves Bumblebee, and that particular character. Just I think that character is actually pretty well realized. I think there's really not. I mean, I think people are going. If you place Bumblebee in his own individual movie, I think you need characters that will go alongside with Bumblebee. Maybe it's Bumblebee's journey to becoming the new Prime. Maybe that's the whole journey that Bumblebee is going through. So taking that whole element. Then we've got Blaster. Blaster is to the same family of Soundwave, where he literally can create. I mean, he's got many eject, forward. He's got many different characters that come out of his chest. So that particular element, and bringing that in. And Blaster is also a funny character. And I also think the musical Transformers, to me, represent the black community to a certain degree. I believe Blaster was also maybe, I'm not sure, but to me there was definitely that kind of element being brought in. Skylinks. Skylinks was your Skylinks was two characters, a rough tiger character and a very posh British chicken. So that whole human Skylinks was one of the most beloved characters as well that they brought it back recently. So bringing that Skylinks into that and Skylinks, and so these are strong characters that you can take in order to beef up a Transformer movies. Will people go see a Bumblebee movie? Yes. Will people go see a Rodimus Prime movie? Probably yes. Will people go see an Ultra Magnus movie? Yes. An Aerial Bots movie? Yes. A Blaster movie? Maybe. I think that you can build those elements in, and who are your co-stars to those particular, but definitely bringing up the characters, like beefing them up. The other thing is, you don't want to take away from the action, but you want to have dialogue. You definitely want to have a lot more dialogue. What was really great about the Transformers cartoon is that while they shot at each other, they were talking. So that's something that is lacking from the Transformers universe that brings a humor element that the Transformers are so amazing that they could just fight and still talk at the same time. So bringing that in, Ultra Magnus. Ultra Magnus is a dark character because there's very different elements about Ultra Magnus. Ultra Magnus in some universes never really becomes the Prime. So that whole element of like, why doesn't the light choose me to be special? Why doesn't because it's the matrix of leadership that chooses who is special. So the factor that Ultra Magnus isn't chosen is like, and he feels like I've done everything. I'm like the best leader. Like I'm humble, I'm nice, I'm kind, I'm just, why won't you open? Like I think those kind of that's really strong and that dark elements because like I mentioned in the previous video, there's going to come a point in time where Decepticons are going to have to team up with Quintessons because Decepticons might have to team up with Autobots in order to take out the Quintessons because the Quintessons are a pretty big thing. Then you've got Wreck-Gar. Wreck-Gar is hilarious. I think Wreck-Gar could have his own. If you wanted to do comedy Transformers like a Deadpool, who is your Deadpool? It's Wreck-Gar. Wreck-Gar is the Deadpool. Why? Because Wreck-Gar, all that Wreck-Gar is sound bites from television shows. And this is an amazing, hilarious concept that's how he replies to people. Sound bites from television shows, which would mean a lot of television watching, but, it would be a funny movie to watch. Then you've got Perceptor. You've got Perceptor, who is the scientist. And Perceptor is a very kind of a little bit of mousy character. Cosmos is another amazing character. I didn't put him in here, but he's kind of like, hey guys, what's up? Perceptor is a guy like he's being true to the characters. I think the Dinobots, of course, Grimlock, all those particular elements. And having Grimlock, I think Grimlock was not really dumbified enough, and having the humor of his ignorance and his simple-heartedness. I think that those kind of elements need to be brought up too. And then, even though we have new ones, what about the old Dinobots? Bringing in the old Dinobots, and then maybe creating a combiner out of all those Dinobots, doing something like that. Aerialbots, the whole storyline of how the Aerialbots don't get along, and their leader doesn't really, their leader is actually afraid of heights. So, and he's the leader of an air army. So that whole concept and that whole element, I mean, the Aerialbots could have their own movies. So that's the Autobots. And I'm sure there's many other characters that you can feel free to name your own favorite character in the comment section down below, and let us know why you think it's the most amazing Autobot or Decepticon. Then we've got Galvatron and Megatron. Now we're going into the Decepticon world. Galvatron and Megatron are not the same person. Galvatron is a modified version of Megatron. And this is explained, it's almost like schizophrenia. It's almost like two programs were placed inside one body. And so he's schizophrenic. There's a whole where he goes to a therapist. It's a hilarious episode where he goes to therapy, Therapy Planet. So I think tapping into those elements and actually maybe even pulling Megatron out of Galvatron and what Galvatron and Megatron would look like separately each other, addressing the issue of the gun and violence, and maybe having that be its own movie and having Galvatron, because then you have two different characters that could exist in the same world. You could have Megatron exist with Optimus Prime, then you could have Galvatron exist with Rodimus Prime at the same time in upper galaxies and whatnot, because they have been separated into two different body types. So what does that mean? And I think talking about the gun, I think the gun is a part of American life. And I think this is a really powerful moment where especially since so many Americans want to talk about gun violence, I think this is a really powerful moment where you could just tap that in, and especially with the whole Megatron mythos and what happened with the kid and something. I'm not going to go into it, but you probably know about it. Then we've got Soundwave and Shockwave. We talked a little bit about these two characters in the previous episodes, but both of these characters could hold movies on their own once they are beefed up. And Soundwave, even though he doesn't have a lot of dialogue, if you beef up his army, then you can definitely have a standalone movie. Shockwave, in regards to the scientific experiments that he performs, the Insecticons. The Insecticons are another really beautiful faction that you can utilize in order to, and not the Insecticons in the sense of like one and they all look the same. No, we want to bring in Bombshell, we want to bring in Shrapnel, we want to bring in Kickback, and we want to bring in those other four that were only toys but were never really in the cartoons. We want to bring them in as individuals. Maybe they can clone themselves and make copies of themselves, because I believe that one of them can do that, but definitely bringing. You have to stick to the genuineness of the character. Bombshell likes to brainwash people. Kickback, I think. What is it? Kickback. Who's the one with the thing? He likes energy and power. So just addressing those issues. Cyclonus, the factor that he's a follower. He is the antithesis of Starscream, completely different than Starscream. I think Cyclonus is the evolved. And so what happened with the whole, if you watch the movie, some of the Transformers got transformed. And so is there a level of schizophrenia that takes place with that particular transformation that happened when Unicron got involved? The Constructicons. And bringing in the Constructicons like real, because each one of these character Mixmaster, they all had a particular. I need to brush up on my Transformers. I know Mixmaster, but they have realized characters. And what's really, when you go back to like the Ninja Turtles, they're bringing in Bebop and Rocksteady. So if they can do something like that, and I know it's going to succeed, definitely Transformers can bring in something like those kind of elements. Starscream. Starscream is not just a sniveling character. He is a power-driven mastermind. He may become annoying and really, but in acting, we all know that you cannot have characters come off too annoying. So, what is the level of Starscream and digging deeper into Starscream's character? I think the movie did it best when Starscream had his shining moment and he just took over and he was like the king or whatever. Again, if you want to talk about some Easter eggs, you've got the Kremzeek. You could throw in some Kremzeek in there. You know what I'm talking about if you've seen the Transformer cartoon. Or you can make the Transformers into mermaids. You can also do that. Or you can have them gamble. You can throw all those kind of elements in there. What do you think about the Transformers world? What's happening? What characters do you think could have their own standalone movie? And what's your team? What's the team that you would build? For instance, I would say a standalone movie for Shockwave versus Perceptor. Yeah, I would put. That might be a little too simple. Maybe we would do Shockwave, Perceptor, and Rodimus Prime. Maybe we'd throw in that combination and Shockwave, and maybe the Shockwave and the Predacons. Maybe throw that kind of mix in, and then those kind of elements of what happens in an off-world situation. But ultimately, the reality is the dialogue needs to be beefed up so that these characters can transition into off-worlds, and we, as a humanity, can look at them and just buy into it and be like, okay, yeah, sure, Avatar. You're less Avatar-y, but I'm buying it that the robots, having deep dialogues, and I'm gonna give it an Oscar for best screenplay. So yeah, that would be awesome, right? Wouldn't that? Or Oscar for best movie. That would be awesome. Like the movie that just, Transformers gets an Oscar. That would just blow everybody's minds, wouldn't it? Yeah. But it could happen. I believe it can happen. Thank you, and I wish you a wonderful year. Take care.